In many places on our planet, winter is cold, snowy, and dark, so it's usually the least loved time of the year. But this season has one thing that can redeem all of its unpleasantness: its beauty. Winter is a crazy artist that harnesses ice, wind, and snow to sculpt breathtaking, otherworldly formations. Some of these icy masterpieces follow the rules of science, while others seem to defy logic entirely. So wear your jacket, grab a cup of Chinese tea, and join us on a journey to discover 15 widely mysterious ice formations that no one on Earth can explain. Let's break the brick with number 15. Ice circles. Rivers don't usually do geometry, but when they do, they go full-on perfectionist. Ice circles, or ice disks, are rare, almost hypnotic formations that appear in the bends of rivers, spinning gently like nature's own lazy Susan. They form when a layer of ice breaks off, due to rotational shear. Basically, the river's current acts like an unseen hand, twisting and smoothing a chunk of ice into a perfect disk. The one captured in Westbrook, Maine, in 2019 was a whopping 100 yards in diameter, making it one of the biggest ever recorded. That's not just a fluke, that's nature showing off. While most of these icy merry-go-rounds quietly disappear without much fanfare, every now and then, one sticks around long enough to make headlines, reminding us that even frozen water can have better symmetry than we do on a good hair day. Number 14. Penitentes. If you ever find yourself high in the Andes Mountains, you might stumble upon rows of jagged ice blades that look suspiciously like an army of frozen monks bowing in prayer. These are penitentes, named because they resemble the pointed hoods worn by religious penitents in Spanish processions. They can grow anywhere from a few inches to a staggering 16 feet tall, which is about the height of 2 refrigerators stacked on top of each other. Because why not? These eerie formations come to life through sublimation, a process where snow skips the whole melting into water step and goes straight to vapor. The sun heats up certain spots more than others, accelerating the process and carving out the towering spires. Since sublimation relies on sunlight, these icy monks always lean toward the sun like nature's own solar panels. Except instead of generating power, they just look really cool. Number 13. Needle ice. Ever seen the ground grow hair? Well, in just the right winter conditions, needle ice shoots up from the soil like nature's version of frosted dreadlocks. This happens when water in the soil is above freezing, but the air is below freezing, creating a perfect recipe for capillary action to pull moisture to the surface, where it freezes into thin, delicate strands. It might look like something straight out of a fantasy novel, but it's just science being dramatic. Over time, the ice needles push up tiny clumps of dirt, making the ground look like it got hit by a tiny frozen earthquake. But don't get too attached. These icy formations don't last long. As soon as the temperature shifts, they collapse into a slushy mess, leaving only muddy footprints behind. Number 12. Frost flowers. Forget roses. Winter has its own version of delicate petals, and they grow right on the surface of newly frozen lakes and seas. Frost flowers, also known as frost blossoms, form when frigid air meets slightly warmer, still freezing water, causing water vapor to crystallize into stunning, feathery structures. They can grow up to 3 inches tall, looking like nature decided to cover the ice in a layer of frosted lace. But here's where it gets even weirder. Scientists discovered these tiny frozen bouquets harbor millions of bacteria, and not the kind you'd expect in frozen, salty water. Researchers are still trying to figure out how these microbes survive, but one thing's for sure. If aliens ever show up, they might want to start their research with frost flowers instead of crop circles. Number 11. Pancake ice, nature's frozen breakfast. If you ever see a bunch of floating ice disks in a river, lake, or the open ocean, don't assume some giant is making breakfast. Pancake ice, as it's fittingly called, forms when broken sheets of ice get caught in the water's currents and start spinning, smoothing their edges over time. These icy pancakes range from a foot to nearly 10 feet across, and as they bump into each other, their edges pile up with slushy ice, creating a raised rim. Sometimes they even merge into larger formations, creating what's called a hanging dam, a fancy way of saying a big ol' ice raft. It's a mesmerizing sight, but don't let it fool you. It means the water is just cold enough to freeze but still moving, which is the kind of setup that makes even polar bears rethink their life choices. Number 10. Narusawa Ice Cave. Most people visit Mount Fuji for the breathtaking views, but just beneath the surface there's an entirely different kind of natural wonder, the Narusawa Ice Cave. Tucked away in Japan's Aokigahara Forest, aka the Sea of Trees, this lava-formed cave is one of the most stunning frozen landscapes in the world. Unlike typical caves, Narusawa never fully warms up, maintaining an icy 0 degrees Celsius temperature year-round. As water drips through cracks in the rock, it freezes into massive ice pillars, some towering up to 100 feet tall. In winter, the cave turns into an otherworldly scene, with glowing icicles and frozen waterfalls shimmering under the dim cave lights. Visitors descend a narrow stairway into this subterranean ice palace, crouching through tight tunnels before emerging into the heart of the cave. It's eerie, breathtaking, and a reminder that nature is both an artist and an architect, especially when lava and ice decide to collaborate. Number 9. Snow rollers. Ever walked outside in winter and found giant hollow snow cylinders that look like a snowman started rolling itself but gave up halfway? Meet snow rollers, nature's weirdest and most oddly satisfying winter trick. Unlike your average snowball, these icy curls don't come from human hands. They form when just the right mix of sticky, melting snow sits on top of a loose, powdery layer. Throw in some strong, but not too strong, wind, and suddenly, the snow starts rolling itself up like a giant frozen cinnamon roll. These things can range from a few inches to several feet wide, looking like something out of a winter bakery. But they're rare. If the wind is too weak, nothing moves. Too strong, and they fall apart. So if you ever see one, appreciate it while it lasts, because the moment the temperature shifts, they disappear, leaving only confused footprints in the snow. Number 8. Rabbit ice. Well, it's not an actual rabbit made of ice, disappointing we know, but rabbit ice, also called hair ice, frost beard, or ice wool, is just as magical. This rare frost formation looks like thin, silky strands of frozen cotton candy clinging to plants and logs in the early morning chill. Here's how this winter sorcery works. The ground stays warm while the air turns to freeze, creating just the right conditions for a botanical ice leak. The sap inside plant stems expands as temperatures drop, cracking the surface and allowing moisture to seep out. The moment that water touches the cold air, it freezes into delicate feathery ribbons, layer by layer, until the plant looks like it's grown a frost beard overnight. The catch? It melts fast. One ray of sunlight, and poof, gone. So if you ever want to catch rabbit ice in the wild, get up early, find a shaded spot, and enjoy nature's most delicate disappearing act. Number 7. Ice daggers. Well, if icicles had an attitude, they'd be ice daggers, sharp, needle-like spikes that look like winter's way of making trees and branches battle-ready. These crystalline formations don't just happen anywhere, they require a very specific mix of conditions: intense cold, wind, and just the right amount of supercooled water droplets in the air. When these droplets hit a snow-covered branch or tree, they freeze instantly, layer by layer, forming razor-sharp ice shards. Unlike your regular icicles that just hang around looking pretty, Ice daggers grow in unpredictable, chaotic patterns, sometimes outward, sometimes upward, sometimes looking like nature's own set of medieval weapons. Because they require both moisture and powerful wind chills, they're not an everyday sight, making them one of winter's rarest formations. And while they may look like something out of a fantasy battle scene, they're harmless unless you're a snowflake trying to land in the wrong place. Number 6. Black ice. Black ice is winter's silent assassin, invisible, merciless, and responsible for more wipeouts than a banana peel in a cartoon. Unlike the thick, crunchy stuff that turns roads into slushy messes, black ice is so thin and clear that you don't even know it's there, until you're already sliding. It forms when supercooled water freezes on roads, sidewalks, or bridges, but instead of turning white and frosty, it stays deadly clear. The reason? There's not enough air trapped inside to make it opaque. Add some dirt and pollution, and it blends in perfectly with asphalt, making it nearly impossible to spot. The first recorded mention of black ice goes all the way back to 1812, and since then, it's been wrecking winter commutes, sending people flying, and generally proving that nature has a dark sense of humor. The best way to avoid it? Walk like a penguin, drive like your brakes don't work, and assume every shiny patch on the road is out to get you. Number 5. The Ice Castles of New Hampshire. Deep in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, a magical kingdom rises each winter, but instead of bricks and mortar, it's built entirely from ice. Caves, tunnels, waterfalls, and towering icicles turn the landscape into something out of a fantasy novel, except no dragons, just a lot of cold noses and dropped jaws. The whole thing started as one dad's backyard experiment in Utah, because apparently regular snowmen weren't enough. Brent Christensen created an ice cave for his kids, and before he knew it, the idea spread like wildfire, except, frozen. Now these castles are built with over 12,000 icicles added daily, carefully shaped by artisans who treat freezing temperatures like their own personal art studio. By night, LED lights illuminate the entire structure, turning it into a glowing, dreamlike spectacle. It's the kind of place where winter feels less like a season and more like an enchanted world, minus the talking snowman, unfortunately. Number 4. Brinicles. Deep beneath the frozen polar oceans, something eerie lurks. Brinicles, aka underwater icicles of death. These ghostly tubes of ice form when supercooled, salty brine leaks from sea ice above, freezing everything in its path. Here's how they work. As sea ice forms, it expels salt, creating dense, ultra-cold brine pools. This liquid sinks rapidly, freezing the surrounding water as it descends. Over time, it forms a downward-growing icicle that spreads across the ocean floor. Any small marine life, sea stars, fish, or slow-moving creatures caught in its path is instantly encased in ice. It's one of nature's strangest and most deadly phenomena, requiring perfectly still, freezing waters to grow. While they look like something out of a science fiction film, brinicles are very real, rare, delicate, and hauntingly beautiful. Luckily, they don't pose a threat to larger marine life like whales or seals, just unfortunate creatures who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Number 3. Blue icebergs. Most people picture icebergs as giant white floating mountains, but some take on a breathtaking electric blue hue. These aren't dyed by nature's paintbrush. Their color comes from the way light interacts with dense ancient ice. Over thousands of years, compacted snow forces out-trapped air, making the ice incredibly dense. As a result, longer wavelengths of light, red and orange, get absorbed, while shorter blue wavelengths scatter back, giving the ice its striking glow. The older and denser the ice, the deeper and richer the blue. Blue icebergs are most common in Antarctica, Greenland, and Alaska, where they calve off glaciers and drift into open water. Some are pale turquoise, while others are an intense sapphire blue, creating a surreal contrast against the white and gray of the frozen landscape. For those lucky enough to see one in person, it's like witnessing a frozen jewel adrift in the sea. Number 2. Ice volcanoes of Lake Michigan. Volcanoes are supposed to be fiery mountains of doom, right? Well, Lake Michigan has a different idea. Here, in the dead of winter, towering ice volcanoes rise along the shore, spitting not lava, but icy water. The recipe for these frozen wonders is a brutal combination of bone-chilling temperatures and relentless waves. As water sloshes onto the shore, it freezes almost instantly, forming mounds that look suspiciously like volcanic cones. Over time, the waves keep piling on layer after layer, building them taller and taller. And just when you think they're done, a strong wave crashes into one, sending a spray of icy water shooting through the top, just like a real volcano, only way less apocalyptic. Some of these frozen giants reach up to 15 feet tall, and they vanish just as mysteriously as they appear. So, if you ever catch one erupting, consider yourself lucky. It's nature's own winter fireworks show, minus the flames. Number 1. Vatnajökull Glacier. Vatnajökull isn't just Iceland's biggest glacier. It's basically the heavyweight champion of European ice, covering 10% of the country and hiding some seriously explosive secrets underneath. Beneath this icy behemoth, multiple active volcanoes lurk, making it a place where fire and ice aren't just fantasy tropes. They're daily reality. Occasionally, those volcanoes decide to remind everyone they exist. When magma heats the ice above, massive meltwater pockets form until, boom, a glacial flood called a Jökullaup breaks loose, sending billions of gallons of water rampaging across the land. It's happened before, like in 1996 when a volcanic eruption beneath the glacier triggered a flood that wiped out roads and bridges like they were made of matchsticks. And in 2011, an eruption spewed ash 17 kilometers into the sky, disrupting flights across Europe. So while it may look like a peaceful frozen wonderland, Vatnajökull is one of the most unpredictable places on Earth. If you find this video interesting, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.